Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Ready, Aim, Retire. I'm Rob Kirvan, your host. As usual, we're sitting here with Tony Shore from the great snow state of Minnesota. This is the show, folks, where we talk about everything from your retirement planning, your wealth management, your legacy planning, Social Security planning, kind of, Tony, everything in between. We try to hit every, relevant topic, and I think we do a pretty good job of that. So, before we get going on our topic, Tony, which is going to be, by the way, folks, the elephant in the room, you're going to want to hear this. But I did say a few weeks ago, Tony, remember I said that our talking, that somebody like narrowed it down to, get past the 5-minute mark or 5.16
forward to 5 minutes into the shows to get to the meat.
For the content. Well, I'm not listening to that listener. I'm going to tell you, like, everybody, I think everybody loves this. And I think we have something important to talk about, Tony. So we're recording today. It's Thursday. What is it? February 20th?
It's the 20th, yes.
So it'll come out, on the podcast this week. It'll come out on YouTube next week. But there's an important event tonight, Tony. It's 7:00 Central Time. Do you know what that event is?
No, I do not.
That's the Canada versus U.S. match for the championship.
I did know about that. I didn't realize that's where you were going. I should have known.
I have taken, so Canada and the U.S. played on Saturday. The U.S. won.
Yep.
I have taken a beat down for the past 4 days. It's been relentless. The texts that come in, the funny.
Because everybody knows you were born and raised in Canada.
Exactly. So, and everybody I do business with here, and either clients, vendors, whatever it happens to be. So I am looking very forward to tonight. So what I'm doing tonight is Abby, my daughter. I said, Abby, you got to be with me because we need the power of two at the local VFW. I have a lot of friends that go down there. Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
this is out of the box, people.
I love that.
You wouldn't picture me just going down to the local VFW.
I love
this is where all my friends are, and they all hang out there for Bears games and things like this. So I had a text yesterday, and they said, "Listen, what do you think about going to the VFW to watch the game?" And they just want to razz me, Tony. So I'm going in there full Canadian gear.
Oh yeah.
So it's either going to age really well or terribly by the end of the game. Like, I don't know, but either I'm going to be slinking out of there being made fun of, or I'm going to walk out of there champion. So, folks, if you're listening, you're probably too late. I'll call. You know what? I'm going to call the score, Tony. I'm going to call the score. I'm going 5-2 Canada.
5-2 Canada.
5-2. Yep. U.S. goalie has been red hot. So, so he's due to get broken. We got an axe to grind, from the last game. I'm going 5-2. It's probably going to be like a 4-2 empty netter kind of thing. But let's remember this next week, when this comes out, if I was even close.
We'll hold you to that 5-2 Canada. So where is the game taking place?
This one is in Boston at the Garden, baby. Yeah. So it'll be a loud crowd. Probably more pro-U.S., Tony, I would think.
You think in Boston?
And pro-Canada. So we had it. The last game was actually in Montreal. We had the pro-Canadian crowd. You know? And they did something very un-Canadian, which was embarrassing to me, and I apologize to everybody. They booed the U.S. players.
Yeah.
When the anthem was on, they booed it. For all that political stuff. So people get so caught up in that, and it's these guys have nothing to do with it. They're playing this huge game and they get booed. So I'm hoping the U.S. doesn't do it, but I'm thinking turnabout is fair play. I'm guessing that
in Boston it can get a little rough. And you thought U.S. fans versus Canadian fans in Boston, they'll probably be rooting for Ireland somehow.
You never know, but they're going to be a tougher crowd. Like, you got to think it's going to be a little more polite. The Boston crowd is going to be a tough crowd. So
yeah. You think that Canada crowd was rough? The Canadians, Bostonians,
it won't even be close. It won't even be close. Like, you're going to hear it all. So it should be, it should be a good night. So that's what my plans are, Tony. So you heard it here first, for folks.
I gotta watch that game. I missed the last one, so I gotta watch this one.
It's like, if you like hockey at all, the first one, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole now, Tony. So everybody, maybe that guy can tune this out. But the first game, in the first 9 seconds, 3 fights. Now this is high level hockey. So this isn't like a regular. This is like basically the Olympics. There's no fighting in the Olympics. There was more penalty minutes in that game than all of the previous games played in this round robin combined.
Oh my goodness.
Like, they went after it. Now it settled down after that. It seemed like it was a thought out thing by the Kachuk brothers, but it definitely added for the excitement. There's no doubt about it. Nobody was expecting that. Like, before the puck dropped, there was a fight. I'm like, what is going on? So
that's nuts.
Yeah, it was nutty. It was
good. Well,
so,
hockey, it can happen,
Yeah.
But Rob, what happens from here? If do they keep
the
playing?
championship game. So they'll win it's called the Four Nations Cup. So the NHL put it together kind of on their break. So, the NBA had a break, they had the All-Star game.
Yeah.
So the NHL did this instead of the All-Star game.
Interesting.
And it's much better. Like, the viewership is off the charts for this thing. Like, normally on an All-Star game, I don't watch them. I find them boring, and it's not really any sport that you watch an All-Star game. They're not really doing anything. So this one they put together, and like, people like are in the NBA are going, wow, we should be doing something like that. Like, it was like, they care about winning, right. So it takes, and everyone's wearing their team, their country, so the country matters, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it tonight. Well, the 5-2 Canada will hold you to that. We'll see.
Yeah, hold me that next week when we talk, Tony. But and folks, let's see if Rob's right. When you hear that, the podcasters out there are gonna hear this tomorrow. So let's see what happens.
And for that guy, for the folks who like to jump right to the financial information, it's 6 minutes 40 seconds. So
let's save everybody the work.
Have to put that in the show notes.
Put that in the comment section. Yeah. That's perfect.
All right, so
I digress. Let's get to the show, Tony. Let's get to the
elephant in the room. What are you talking about, Rob? I mean, you're not talking. It's not a slam against me, I hope.
Nope,
I mean, I want to remind people the camera adds 100 pounds. I'm just going to remind our viewers of that if they're watching.
Yeah, me too. Like, the elephant in the room is not Tony, folks. The elephant in the room is the things that we don't like to talk about because they make us uncomfortable. And these are things that I see every day when I'm sitting with clients. We'll talk about things today like, your mental capacity diminishing. What do you do? What should you have in place when that happens? Even physically diminishing. These things happen. So I want to discuss that. We're going to discuss ways that we can protect ourselves, and maybe the documents, Tony, that people need to have in place for when these cases happen. You can't put them in afterwards. You got to put them in. You got to put them in before. But I want to just give some shock factor for some of these documents. So, Tony, do you know 68% of Americans don't have a will?
Wow.
68%. So if something happens to a person in that 68% and they pass, what a mess they've left behind. Like, if they own anything, if they own a house, if they own a car, if they own investment accounts, if they own anything, they've left this mess behind. Plus, people don't know who's going to get their stuff. So everything's got to go to probate, and probate means simply to prove. So people have to prove that they're the rightful heirs of this. So let's say I passed away and I have my wife and 3 daughters. They literally would have to go to probate to prove that they're the rightful heirs of my stuff. So a will, to me, is a number one document. We're going to go through that a little later. But these are just some statistics I pulled up here. 41% of people aged 18 to 34 and 34% aged 35 to 54 have never discussed estate planning with anybody. And folks, so you don't have to be rich to do estate planning. That's kind of the, I guess that's one of the elephants in the room. That's kind of what people think. Oh, I'm not rich enough to get into that. If your stuff is important to you, whatever that number is, that's what you've saved. That's what you've acquired throughout your life. It better be important to you. And you want to make sure that whatever that number is, that goes to the people that you want it to go to. It doesn't go to the state, and it doesn't go to somebody else because they're trying to prove that they're the one. It's very important stuff. Estate,
and you don't want to leave a mess for your family either.
No, and that's where it happens, Tony. That's a really good point. So my next one, you just kind of dovetailed in. Tony does not have this sheet in front of him. He just knows what he's doing. 35% of adults have personally experienced family conflict as a result of not having a will or estate plan in place. And Tony, I've been teaching these classes or, these workshops at the local libraries over the last several months. Not every month or anything, but, once every few months, I'll teach these. And when I ask people, raise your hand if when an estate settled, if you saw any family disharmony, experienced it yourself, knew somebody, almost every hand goes up. And that's kind of what when we talk about enhanced planning, we're talking about keeping that that family dynamic in place when you're gone. And some of the tools we'll talk about today will help you folks. This is a big one too. 54%, Tony, of adults over the age of 50 have not completed a living will or named a healthcare power of attorney.
Oh,
like a healthcare power of attorney. If I didn't have a will, I would want that, and I would want a financial power of attorney. So let's go through. That's my shock and awe package, Tony. Those are the percentages to get people sitting up out of their seat a little bit. I want to go through some of the checklist for people out there, that documents that everybody should have. Okay. So when we talk about, we don't know, I was just on a Teams meeting right before I got in here. So I was talking to this person, and it's not a client, it's something for an ancillary business. And we're talking, and he's 57, and he said, Rob, and I'm 54. So he's like, have you any of your friends, have you been seeing any people passing suddenly or anything? He had a friend die of a heart attack 2 weeks ago, and then one that just got diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. And he goes, the Lou Gehrig, 60 years old, 6 months away from retirement. And these things, you don't know when you're going to get it, and the reason a lot of people don't do this stuff is you think you're invincible, right? I'm good. But unfortunately, as we get older, getting out of bed seems a little bit more of a challenge for me, Tony. I'm not going to lie. It's just, everything's just a little tighter. It's a little tighter than it used to be on the chassis, so, and that only just continues, and cognitively, as people age, you lose that sharpness, right? And I sit here with clients all the time where, there might be a couple, and one of them is definitely losing it cognitively, and the spouse is kind of covering it up a little bit. I make my notes. We talk about it after, because these things are the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. So here's a good list of, these are my starter points. We're not going to get into a whole enhanced planning today, Tony. I just want people to understand what they should have, to address this elephant in the room, and maybe the simplest of documents that people should have in place. So the number one, even if you don't have a will, you don't have any, you got to have this. So you need to have a durable healthcare power of attorney. So that what that does is that makes sure that your medical wishes are abided by. So you have a trusted person that becomes your healthcare power of attorney. So if you get in a wreck, you get into long-term care, you get into something unexpected, you have somebody in your corner. That's really important, that understands kind of what you want, and everyone should have one of those, regardless. The next one you need is a durable financial power of attorney. That lets somebody get access to your accounts. If I went out today, Tony, and I crossed the street and a bus hit me, and I didn't have a financial power of attorney, and Natalie needed money for my medical, she needed money, for the home, to have money coming in all the time. I do all that at my house. So of course she's the financial power of attorney. She knows where everything is, because I preach that to everybody that walks through my door, that one person, runs point, one person kind of sidecar. That's kind of how most couples work, which is fine. And it's either way. It's not just the man or the woman. They're interchangeable, and I have them both, but the biggest thing is you have to know where the stuff is at, regardless if you're not the one paying the bills or we're drawing the money. You have to know kind of what we got. So a durable power of attorney allows that person access to accounts, sign checks, file tax returns, cash Social Security checks on your behalf, even though those are automated. But all of those things that are required financially, you need to have that. So you need to have the healthcare power of attorney, the financial power of attorney. Those are critical documents. The next one I would say is having a living will. So what a living will does is it's your will. So you're gonna have like where you want your stuff to go. But in there, Tony, is things like do not resuscitate things, your wishes. If you don't have that, they're going to do you could sit on a ventilator for 6 months or a year or whatnot, and maybe your family, they don't have control over that because they don't have the documentation to say, you know what, this is not what they wanted. If you wanted that, great. I would also say on the healthcare power of attorney, I say I have 3 daughters, I got to pick the one that's going to keep me plugged in the longest, Tony. All right, keep me plugged in, until it doesn't look very good. I don't want the one that's going to yank that plug out right away. I want to just get some medical attention there. But so the financial power of attorneys, the living will, critical. Beneficiary review. I'll tell you a story, Tony. I got a great story of this. I have a client. Has been remarried for 30 plus years. I think 35 years. I may have told this story on this show before because it's one of those ones that just stick with you.
Yeah.
He passes away. He has this old 401k that we never managed. All the stuff he managed, the beneficiaries were obviously the new spouse. And I say new, it's 35 years. So his spouse, I would rather say it that way. But there was this old one sitting in there that from when he was younger, that his ex-wife was the beneficiary. And that had grown over the years because no one touched it, just kind of sat there for literally 30, 40 years. It sat there. And it grew to a good sum of money. And the ex-wife got it because he never changed the beneficiary.
Oh, no.
So
terrible.
The current wife, and they had kids. So they're kids. And it's somebody that, the kids didn't even know, so somebody else gets this lump sum of cash.
I've heard that happening as well. So you've got to keep all your beneficiary designations updated. Plus, it's a great reason not to leave or forget about accounts like 401ks.
Right.
He should have rolled that over into a Roth or an IRA or something.
For sure. And you should have it all rolled into one spot.
Right.
That's how mistakes happen. And I tell people that, some people will say, well, you know what? I want to have it at a few different spots. I want to diversify my financial, my wealth management. Yeah. That makes very little sense because if you have it at one cost wise, you're going to be lower.
Yeah.
Because you're splitting it. So you're paying more. You're going to get 2 different angles of advice. So which one are you going to pick? Which is the good advice for you? Are you picking the one you like the best? Because that's, that's the one I like, or are you picking the one that's the best for you? And when people have them divided like that, that's when mistakes happen. And then the beneficiary thing comes into play. And then someone passes and they don't have access to this old 401k. Here, obviously they have access to everything, right? Because we're managing it all. And I have very few like that. I could count them on less than a hand, but still, that's where mistakes happen.
It's a huge, costly mistake. And I'll tell you what, you don't want to leave your family in a bad situation. You want your assets to be handled in a proper manner. You don't want to have to go through the courts or pay high attorney fees after you're gone. You don't want to leave these burdens on your family.
No, you don't. And have them doing the hunt, trying to find this thing out, in the, it makes very little sense, but it happens. And it probably, that's only happened once here, but I'm sure it happens all the time. I'm sure, people get married and divorced now more.
I know
than they used to,
Yeah, I know a couple people that's happened to, and I know a few people who have lost track of 401ks. I know a number of those.
Oh yeah. When we get people in and they give us an asset list and then, they transfer everything over to us, they're working with us. And then they're like, it's a year later and they're like, oh wait, by the way, I got this thing here. Oh, okay. And like,
yeah.
Okay. All right, let's get that over. So sometimes it takes a little while, but
yeah,
you want all your eggs in one basket. You want them all in one spot because when one person can look at your whole picture, and then they can diversify against it. And make sure all the pieces are talking. So you're not just doing the same thing twice.
And you're not talking about having all your money in one stock or one place like that, actually. But you want all your money working with one financial planner who understands your vision, and then you can diversify properly. If you have a 401k over here and an IRA over here, and different people are managing those accounts, money managers or or different third parties, you're going to end up with overlap. You're going to cancel moves out. It's not cost effective to do that.
No, it's not cost effective. And here we deal with, all our client assets are held at Charles Schwab. They're the largest. They're they are the gorilla in the room. So
yeah, they're a third party custodian that holds the money.
Custodian. Yeah, huge. So your stuff's safe over at Charles Schwab. So there's no argument there as far as that goes. But again, the point of that, we got sidetracked a little bit, but the point of that is check your beneficiaries, and check them for an old 401k or an old Roth or something you have, but also check them if your life has changed. We have people where, unfortunately, there's some family turmoil, and there's one child where they don't want them getting anything, but they never updated anything.
And I couldn't handle it. They don't want them getting a chunk of money or inheriting the house if they can't properly manage it.
Right. Yeah. Or they might just be disinherited. Like they might just be one of those where
it happens.
Yep, it definitely happens. We see it a lot, so you want to make sure those are always up to date. As people get grandchildren, sometimes they put some grandchildren on there for a little percentage, for grandma and grandpa, all sorts of things. But as long as you're up to date with those, and if you work with us and when you're sitting down, we'll definitely ask you about it. But definitely when you come in, ask us about it too. Let's make sure we're on top of this stuff. The next item that you need is a trusted contact form. So, like someone that you can use as a trusted contact that can help with your account. So we have, and normally here, Tony, we don't usually get this until someone's on their own. So if they're spouses, they are the trusted contact, obviously. But once someone is passed, you need another trusted contact. So they might have a financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, but someone that can just call us and say, hey, Mary is going through this, and this, and we can take that information at face value. And even at your bank, folks, you should have a trusted contact or a transfer on death on your bank account. So whoever is going to get that, it makes it more seamless for them. But the trusted contact is a big one that someone can discuss your accounts, your life with me, and that's an important one.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah. Someone should be a trusted contact, right? And that's at the very least, Tony, if you, especially if you didn't have a financial power of attorney. So a trusted contact can talk to us, but they can't really do anything. They can tell us about.
But you need that financial power of attorney,
right? And those could be two different people. Yeah. They really could. The trusted contact might be somebody a little closer to you. The financial power of attorney could be a child. So the trusted contact might be somebody that would be able to tell us if Tony had a spill, Tony's laid up, what should we do, and have that discussion. And then the financial power of attorney would get involved if we need to withdraw funds or things like that, right? So both are equally as important. And the last one I have on here, so we talked about wills a little bit. If depending on your situation, a trust might be appropriate, so people always ask me, because we do a lot of these workshops, and they come in and they're, figuring out if they need a will or a trust. And they're always like, what's the differentiator? And to me, it's this, Tony. So when I look at someone's estate, and again, you don't have to be rich to have any of these items, it's your stuff. So when I look at it and they have a house, I'm leaning trust, to get the house in the name of the trust. Once it's in there for 5 years, the long-term care and stuff can't come after it. It's kind of arm's length away. But if they have a house, and then they have like a non-retirement brokerage account or non-retirement savings account of anything of value, then you really should have a trust.
My wife and I have our house in a trust, and we have our bank accounts in a trust.
Right, and you should, right? Yeah. So you should have that. And it's a protection thing. It's protection even, Tony. Like, let's say you drove someone, you hit somebody by accident, and they're coming after you. Well, that's arm's length away. Tony doesn't own it. The trust owns it. So from that aspect, and then the other aspect is just the ease of the asset passing to the beneficiaries down the road. Whereas normally a home would go through probate.
Yeah, you want to avoid probate at all costs, right?
Right. It's just and it's not like a dirty word or anything. It's just another layer of hassle. You've just lost a loved one.
It's cost, it's hassle, it's time.
Time it
Yeah.
can take, depending on like, depending on your situation, what we're trying to put through. Yeah, it could take up to 6 months, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've heard a year on some things,
Well,
so
Prince's, the rock star
Yep.
Prince, when
Mhm.
he passed, he had nothing in place.
No.
So his estate was in probate and in the courts for years because they were battling over it. So
And you had so many people coming forward.
yeah,
And they were the rightful heir to the guitar collection, to the
yeah,
music, to the
yeah,
home, the Paisley Park, is that what it's called,
yep,
Paisley Park?
yep.
Yeah,
Paisley Park.
Paisley Park. So, yeah, in a case like that, I look at that and go, "How? How doesn't
How does
Prince?"
this financial advisor, he had to work with a financial planner or
Yeah,
manager,
for sure.
financial manager, and I know you won't work with, I mean, people, you say you have to have powers of attorney in place, a
Yeah, you
will
gotta
and a
get
trust. I mean,
right.
you tell all your clients that, and
100%, and
yeah,
we say it over and over, and not that they all, um do it on the first go around, Tony,
yeah,
because they don't want to. Because some people think if you get a will or a trust that you're gonna die. They use it as foreshadowing,
yeah.
instead of being,
Nobody wants to think about it. It's the
no,
elephant in the room.
it's the elephant in the room,
Yeah,
100%, and we have lots like that, but we drill it in over and over and over, and make sure they get their ducks in a row, and they do, but you're just hopeful that they get these ducks in a row before something becomes a bigger obstacle,
yeah,
and especially when you're talking wills, somebody doing a will when they're in their 80s, and they may have a little bit of dementia, and those wills can be challenged, and all of these things. You got to do it when you're in a good state of mind, when you know that you can always make changes, you can always make amendments, but it's more important. Let's get these documents in a row. So when we talk about, let me just I'll give just a recap, Tony. The elephant in the room. Here's Rob's checklist for the elephant in the room that you have to address, and the elephant in the room is things like, down the road getting cognitive, digression, physical, attributes going down. And here's the documents, folks, for the wrap up that you need. You need a healthcare power of attorney, pivotal, a financial power of attorney, very important, a living will to let people know where you want your stuff to go and what your wishes are medically. Beneficiary review. Me and Tony talked on that for quite a while. A trusted contact form with your wealth manager, with your bank, with anybody that will need to talk to somebody about your situation, especially if it becomes impaired. That's a big one, because they can see that it's impaired and contact someone like me. And then a trust. If it's appropriate, a trust to protect assets, and have them kind of at arm's length away. But those are all very important, Tony. I could do a show after a show after show. I've done a few on enhanced planning. We've brought some people, and we'll do that again this year for sure, because it is something I'm passionate about, and it's something that I think I sit in the room, folks, when it goes the other way. And
yeah,
I sit there when it goes the other way, and we try to solve problems without these kinds of things in place. People are sent to me, Tony. They're referred to me by my clients saying, I think Rob can help. Some people, and I'm thankful, they think I can kind of solve anything in this space. And I say I can solve a lot, but sometimes it's unsolvable without some of this documentation, So make sure you get with your people. You can definitely call us, Tony, too. We can help you out with all of this stuff at 630-780-1099. You can go right on our site, our website at apadvisorsgroup.com. Lots of useful tools on there. If you want to book an appointment, you can do it right online. But have that discussion with your family, have it with whoever you're with about the elephant in the room and getting these things organized.
that sounds great. Well, Rob, great topic today. Really, really important for people to get all their ducks in a row, get these powers of attorney, wills, and trusts in place. Make sure all your beneficiary designations are in place. A lot of great reminders and important information. Good show. Again, 630-780-1099 if they want to call you. I know you work alongside estate planning attorneys
Yep.
to help your clients and people you work with
CPAs.
this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, good show today. And listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Ready, Aim, Retire.